I look like too. I'm like,
yes, we decided that we all look like crap today, so you're just with good. I don't think you look like crap, but
Professor just rolls.
Thank you. I'm trying. I'm like, oh my goodness, forgot this is Zoom.
Yeah, you're good. Totally good. You look amazing.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen.
You bet. So we just want to welcome you. Obviously, it's funny because our teacher's super excited that we got a woman who is in such a good position that can talk about teams and how she deals with teams and all that stuff. So she's super excited to hear your interview as well. So we're looking forward.
Awesome.
Yeah.
He said some of the groups just interviewed each other, and I thought, well, can't interview each other about leadership.
So.
Not our group anyway.
Yeah, not our group.
We just talked to Jesse the whole time.
Okay, we will say we could have interviewed Jesse because we kind of do that every week anyways. So we kind of grill him quite a bit, but.
And I'm sure he likes to share. Yes.
He does. He's a good person to talk to.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you personal information about yourself. I'm Erica, by the way.
Hi, Erica.
And if you want to interject anything, you absolutely can, and tell us, if you want to segue somewhere else and touch on different topics, you're more than welcome to do that. We're open to any kind of interview that you would like. My first question is, do you think leaders are born, or do you think people are able to learn to be a leader?
Both. I think leaders, I think you're born a leader, but I do think that you can also learn leadership as well.
Which do you think is easier?
It's a hard question because there's some people that are born leaders, but they don't know how to lead.
Absolutely.
But naturally, you can see it in them, like you're a leader, but they still struggle with leading, versus someone who really wants to be in a leadership role can be taught that and can step up and actually be a leader. So it's a tough question to say which one's easier to me, anyway.
So before you jump forward, Erica, I just was curious, is it easier for you when you see someone who is a natural leader to just kind of help them kind of figure that out and become a better leader? Is it easier for you as the trainer to work with someone who's more of a natural?
It's a tough one again, because I've had some people where I'm like, oh my gosh, you're a natural leader, and you give them a little bit of a push and they're on their way, and there's some that they don't believe it.
Right.
And so they actually end up struggling, versus the person who isn't a natural leader, who's just hungry for it. Like, hey, tell me what I need to do. What are some activities or behaviors that I can learn and, to be a leader? Because I usually find that they're more, they want it more.
Oh, okay.
And so ideally, sometimes it can be easier. So it's kind of 50-50.
Awesome.
My next question is, did you ever have a mentor?
I do. I have a mentor now. I've always had a mentor ever since I went into being a store manager. I think it's helpful to have a mentor, either in your same position or even in a position maybe that you aspire to, or just even someone that is a role model of yours. And so, yes, I have a mentor and have had a mentor.
Is it within Starbucks, or is it outside of Starbucks?
Both. So I have
awesome.
someone that's inside Starbucks, and then also a personal mentor, which is a good friend of mine who I admire, known for years. Someone who kind of knows me, Leah, outside of work, that I can talk to, that knows me on both ends. So both.
And do you mentor anyone?
Yes, I mentor. Yes, so Jesse, I mentor several managers on my team, on my first team, and then I also mentor one of my peers.
I see.
Who's in a different division of the company.
Do you like that? Do you like to mentor?
I love it.
You do?
Oh my God, I love it. It is. it's very rewarding because I find when you mentor somebody, you're actually getting a lot out of it yourself.
Do you, have you always known how to mentor somebody, or did you read a book, or how did you learn to actually bring something, you know, bring the best qualities out in a person?
A great question. I think that's something that's actually happens have always been a strength of mine, is building a relationship. And so I think as that strength, I've always been able to get to know people and ask more questions about them. So I would say, I guess, I've gotten better at it through having my own mentor and kind of role modeling that same behaviors that I got from that person in my personal relationships and mentorships moving forward.
That's awesome. Good for you. How long have you worked for Starbucks?
20 years.
Wow. For a while.
Just a little while.
Why did you choose Starbucks? Did you just go in off the street and say, you know what, I think this is a great place, I want to work there? Or did somebody like recruit you, or how did you get into Starbucks?
So funny story, but short story. One of my friends was working there. I was in college and I would go to visit her and go see her at work. And she gave me samples of the mocha frappuccino. And I was like, oh, these are amazing. And she said, hey, you get them free if you work here. And I needed a part-time job while I was in school. And so I applied. I didn't really know anything about Starbucks other than it was a coffee company. And I had worked at a coffee shop when I was in high school. So I'm like, how hard can this be?
And why did you choose to make a career of it?
The culture, the values, the mission of the company. I had worked for different companies. When I graduated college, I decided I'm gonna try to experience the corporate America world and work for different companies. But this is the first company that I worked for that actually stands behind their mission and values and everything that they do. And they actually put their employees at the center of those decisions. And I had never seen that before. And so I said, hey, I think I can grow here. And I was able to be myself.
Well, that's always a positive. Always a positive. Do you feel like being a woman and a minority has impacted your career any?
I do. I actually feel like at Starbucks, it's impacted me in a positive way. I feel like I've been able to get a lot of opportunities, especially being female and also being African American. I feel like it's actually been a plus. And it's been great for other people within the company to see, because they it helps motivate and inspire them.
Absolutely.
But I think it's actually a plus for me, which has been great.
Do you feel like you've had any barriers or anything that's hindered your career?
I haven't, other than myself. No,
been your own barrier.
Totally. Like anything, I think you've got to do the work and you've got to put in the time. And sometimes the person that puts in the work a little bit harder than you do may get the opportunity. But
Absolutely.
I've been very blessed that anytime I have done the work, put the time in and done the research, I've gotten the job.
Awesome. That's pretty great. I'm going to send it over to Jen. She's going to have her set of questions.
So we'll talk about this a little bit more at the end about kind of what your goals are and where you're hoping to go. So I'm interested to see, because of the progress that you've made in the first 20 years, like where you want to go. So we'll deal with that at the end. But okay, so I'm moving more towards, I know Jesse sent you the questions, but more towards like a conflict resolution. Like, how do you deal with tough things, in a day-to-day type of arena? So, and some of this, you may, because you probably work more with managers now more than the employees on that side per se, probably. So if that's wrong, just let us know. But so kind of looking back, working with employees and on a day-to-day basis, how would you say that you deal with things like social loafing?
The biggest thing is being transparent, calling others out to ensure everyone contributes. One of the biggest things with any time we come with like a group project or things that need to be done as a team is making sure to gain commitment prior to the project being started. Like whose role is responsible for this?
Right.
ahead of time. That way it's clear on what everyone's responsible for, and then just follow up. You committed on this date that this is what you were going to be responsible for. You're not holding your end of the bargain.
Right. Like, where are you at?
So just,
Yeah.
correct.
Right.
And so it takes consistent follow through, but that's why it's so important prior, so it doesn't get to that point, to kind of set those expectations from the beginning and gain the commitment. Don't overcommit. Do you have capacity? That's something that we say a lot at Starbucks, but do you have the capacity right now to handle this task that we're asking you? If you don't take it on. We'll give this to somebody else who does have more capacity to take this on right now.
Right.
So that I find by doing that avoids the social loafing.
Mm-hmm. It keeps them committed because they've already pre-made the commitment.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that way it's not just, hey, this is a group thing. This is like, hey, no, this is a Erica, this is a Jen thing. You personally own this piece of the pie.
Right.
And you're committing to me, but also to your team, that this is where you're going to hold up the end of the bargain. And if not, just being transparent that, hey, you're not doing what you're supposed to do.
Right.
What's the plan?
Right. So that's amazing advice, by the way. That's awesome. So can you have too big of a team? And so for you, what is your ideal number? And Starbucks may have kind of a say on that, but have you ever had too big of a team where you've just got too many people? And then what does it look like when it's kind of perfect?
Another great question. I was thinking about this question. I said it kind of depends on what you're leading and also the support structure underneath them. For example, I have 12 managers now. In my last role, I was a district manager, but I supported licensed stores, and I had 24 to 26 stores.
Okay.
And for me, a lot of my peers hear that and I go, oh my gosh, it was such a big team. But it was a different support structure, so it actually worked out great. Mm-hmm. Ideally, I would love, the perfect number for me would be 9. I think 9 stores would be fantastic, although 12 is manageable because of the support structure underneath them. Mm-hmm. There is a manager that's responsible for the store, but they also have supervisors that also take on a majority of that work. So it depends, again, I think the structure that's underneath the store manager, if it was just the manager that was responsible for running the entire store,
right.
I think 9 would be the magic number for me. But I have 12 now and it's manageable.
Okay. So you mentioned you've had 24. Have you ever had where you're like, wow, this is just too much? Like, I have too many.
I guess on a personal level, yes. Okay. I thought like, whoa, this is too many. Right. But then you adapt. You kind of adapt and you change your approach and how you do the work to manage your time. Because I wasn't going to say now I'm going to work 70 hours a week to make sure that I see all 26 managers. Just had to change the approach of how I did my work and my cadence of seeing my stores to where then it was easy.
Right. So that's a really, really, really interesting answer, because a lot of people don't sense that adaptation can include let's have a normal life, outside of work, right? So where they're like, no, I'm at 70 hours or I'm at 90 hours a week and I don't have a choice, right? So a lot of people would say this, I don't have a choice. This is how it has to be done. But of course they have a choice, right? So I love your answer that you just have to look at, how do I do this? And I change up how I did things in order to make it manageable. So that's
absolutely awesome. Work-life balance is something that is extremely important to me. And you've got to be able to do that to have balance, I think, in your life.
Right. That's amazing. So how do you deal with turnover and emotional loss on a team?
It's a tough one. I will tell you the biggest thing for how you deal with turnover is you plan for it. Mm. You plan for it, and it's something I didn't do when I first became a leader. I would get very emotional and feel disappointed when I had turnover. But the reality is, and I learned this early on from one of my mentors, is that you're going to always have turnovers, and it's inevitable for different reasons. Things happen, and you should plan for it. And so what I did learn is what we call succession planning. So basically creating a bench and have a backup plan for every single leader that you have. Expect that they could turn over tomorrow, and what's your plan? And so that's a lot of my strategy as a leader, or at least as a district manager, is that always having a plan. What's your backfill plan? And again, anyone, and not to say anyone can be replaced, but you should always have a backup plan for that person. So planning it, short-term answer. Emotional loss on the team. Again, another thing that it's hard to say plan for it because you never know how it may personally impact you. But the cool thing is, working at least for a larger company, we have different people that help us with that. I don't think you can ever really plan for an emotional loss on the team, depending on, again, what that looks like.
Right.
But you plan for it, you work through it. Takes a little bit more time. But again, it just depends on what the emotional loss is. Is it something tragic? Is it how someone's dealing with it? It just depends on what it is.
Do you find that maybe you spend, what I was thinking of specifically is, you've got someone in your store and they've been there for 3 or 4 or 5 years, and then they're leaving, and everybody's like, I love them. I don't want them to leave. I'm really sad. We're such good friends, and so, but from that perspective, I love the whole planning for that as well. But how are you, like, do you find yourself talking with people one-on-one, like if they're really, really struggling with something like that?
Absolutely. So the biggest thing too, thank you for the explanation or kind of clarification. I appreciate it. So I think a lot of it is, if it's going to happen, letting people know ahead of time. So a lot of times that does require individual conversations. And again, a lot of times if I'm going to move someone, whether they're relocating, whether I am planning on separating them, or they're getting a promotion, or they're just leaving the company, preparing people for it and having those conversations. Again, transparency is so important to people, and they appreciate it. This is what's going to happen. So I want to make sure that I kind of tell you guys ahead of time what this is going to look like, but also sharing my plan of, hey, this is, and thinking through that, what leader am I going to put here? Because some people are really, really hard to replace. They have, as they say, big shoes to fill.
Right.
Like we can't replace. I'm not going to put another Jesse here, but I do have, Erica, and Erica is this type of leader, which is similar, and which will help with what this team needs. So kind of knowing what's important that this particular leader brought to the team. And how this new person that I replace them with can bring. And sometimes it goes smoothly, and other times it can still be a little rocky, which may take continued follow-up and conversations of kind of checking back and saying, hey, now that you have Erica here who's replaced Jesse, how are things going? How are you feeling? What's the energy been like in the store? And even connecting with the new manager and asking them how they feel. Because that's another thing too. We need to make sure they also feel warmed and welcomed as well, because it can be also awkward for them kind of walking into someone else's old store. But usually things kind of smooth themselves out after time. I usually don't find where it's like people still struggling with it. And if it's that rough, usually they'll transfer with them if they're just going to another store.
Sure. Okay. Let's see. Perfect. All right. Then how would you say, if you could kind of outline, how do you deal with internal controversy? So you've touched on that a little bit with the emotional loss, but if you've got internal controversy, people aren't getting along, or, maybe there's someone that was a manager and they've had to step down, and so now somebody else is taking the spot and they just don't like that. So outline how you deal with that.
Great question. Thanks for, again, the clarification, because when I read the question of internal controversy, my first thing is I don't get involved in it. I kind of stay focused on the job at hand, especially if it doesn't directly impact me. But if it does impact me or impact my team, we deal with it. it's what I call put the fish on the table. Like, let's all talk about this and kind of get down to it. What's bringing this dissension amongst the team, and let's talk through it. Because obviously we want to assume the positive intent. We want to do what's best for each individual in the matter, and also the teams at these individual stores. So a lot of it is just literally talking through it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the great thing is people that come and get, at least in Starbucks, and I'll speak specifically to the brand, the culture piece is huge. And we talk about that really early on with each individual that comes on board. It's not something that will even exist. If it does exist, we have to quickly diffuse it.
Right.
If not, it's not part of our brand, and it will stray us from our values and our mission and values. And a huge thing is putting the partner, any employee, first. And if that's something that someone struggles, they may struggle with working with our company. So then that's a different conversation.
Gotcha.
So I'm very lucky there to be able to go back and link it to our mission and values really quickly. And if there's anything as far as, spiraling out of control, then I would go back again and link it to our mission and values. And again, that's a different conversation, may become a performance management conversation,
right.
Because we don't want any derailers from that. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Sorry.
No, that's perfect.
Okay.
And then how would you say you deal with unethical choices made like on it?
So I wanted to ask you, what do you mean by that? Because everyone has different unethical.
Sure. No, I totally get it. So kind of my thought process was like if you've got someone stealing, or if you've got someone who's, I don't know exactly what Starbucks, policy is, but maybe they're giving out too many free drinks, or they're taking money from the thing, or whatever. So how do you deal with those kind of unethical choices? I mean, there was a big blow up in Starbucks because they wouldn't let them use the bathroom, that whole crazy Starbucks thing, which I wouldn't necessarily say was ethical or unethical, but how do you deal with where someone's like not doing things legally? So it may be even a manager taking money, or that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the cool thing, or not cool thing, but the great thing we have is we've got standards and procedures and policies. So a lot of times I'm very black and white, and I'm very by the book, so to speak. If it's in our partner handbook, and partner is what we call our employees. If it's in our employee handbook that we cannot steal, it's pretty black and white.
Right.
Hey, I saw you give your discount to Johnny Sue. You're not, that's against our standards and procedures on page 66 of the partner handbook. What questions do you have about that? Was it shared with you when you first got hired?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We'll be moving forward with separating you on this date. Can you sign this corrective action?
Yeah. So it's
pretty for me, easy. I don't want to say easy. I've done it a few times. The biggest thing that I have to share with my leaders, because I haven't personally had to separate any of my managers for doing any of that kind of stuff. Usually they're well versed into standards ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
With some of the examples that you provided, Jen. However, they have to do a lot of separations for some of the things that you did share. And so one of the things that I do is I follow with my managers to make sure that they're well versed in all our standards and guidelines, and also be a resource for them. We also have a couple resources. We have almost our human resources. They have a line that they can call if they're concerned about a particular policy, or, hey, I saw this, but I'm not sure. Can I talk this through with you? They can actually call and get actual advice from them. Sometimes they'll say, hey, this is the answer, or they may say, hey, reach out to your district manager on how they would like you to further move forward with this particular incident.
Nice. Okay, and then how do you personally foster a culture of integrity? So you talked about the handbook. So what kind of language are you using that kind of fosters that?
So one of how I foster a culture is I role model it. I'm transparent with my team, so I ask for the exact same thing from them. And so not so much more so from a handbook, although it is part of our mission and values of being transparent, treating people with dignity and respect, and being transparent. So I just try to role model it.
That's awesome.
And that seems to work.
Yeah, for sure. So how do you, if you could just kind of run through how you make difficult team decisions?
So one of the things when that happens, any type of difficult team decision, most recently I had to deal with one making a change on my first team. And so one of the first things I do is I review the mission statement, because usually anytime, there's something that I need to reference, I have to go back to, is this in line with our company values? Because any decision that I make on behalf of the company has to be aligned with the mission statement.
Right.
Then I also will look at the job description of each role to kind of see what is asked of them is actually called out, and is it something that they were aware of. I discuss it with a peer. I also will discuss it with a mentor, depending on what it is, and my leader. And I discuss all options. And then I'll practice having the conversation, either with a peer or my leader, aloud, to kind of prepare myself on how I'm going to have that conversation with or without that person. And then I just do it.
Okay. And then do you find that when you're having to make those decisions that you prefer a consensus on the decision, or where you are personally making that individually?
It depends. It depends on what the decision is. If it's a decision that impacts me directly, then it's just going to be me making that decision. If it's something where it's a group thing, and a group thing like, hey team, what do you guys think about this?
Mm-hmm.
Then yeah, consensus is important. But at the end of the day, the decision will always be me.
Okay. Perfect. You had some amazing answers. So I'm excited to just kind of read. We're kind of typing along as we go.
Oh.
So each one of us have kind of jumped in typing, but I'm excited to kind of look over that again, because I don't know. One of the things that I feel like I struggle with is so when you talk about just dealing with struggles and bringing out the best in people and there's a lot of talking. And not that I don't love relationships and love talking, but sometimes I feel like we're always talking. And so do you feel like that's kind of the case, where it's like it just is this continual building, like relationship building, where you're constantly talking?
Yes. I'm like, sure. I apologize, you guys. I have my dog. Stop. Sit. Sorry, he's wanting my attention right now. I apologize. Yes, I do. Until you, I think, have effective collaboration. And what I mean by that is transferring ownership. If you as the leader try to handle everything, like I'm going to take on all these different things, then absolutely, you're going to be talking, your mouth's going to be dry, and you're going to be stressed, and you're going to be not want to talk about it all.
Right.
I think the biggest thing is really transferring ownership to your different leaders, to your direct reports. Hey, Jesse, I'm going to have you own sales and inventory, and I'm going to support you. So that way, I'm just talking to Jesse, help him be the subject matter expert. So then that way, he's leading content that I don't have to talk about anymore. He's now taking this off my plate, and this also helps him rebuild his confidence, and also the team now sees him as, wow, Jesse's this leader on my team. He can talk about sales and inventory. I don't need to go to Leah, which is great, because that takes talking off my plate, so to speak, on that particular subject. And that's one of the things that I had to learn, Jen, that I'm not going to be the subject matter expert of everything. And I think some leaders try to do that. And that's something that I've told myself, I don't ever want to be that person, because then you're always talking, because you're always being sought out. I want to be a leader of leaders. So I lead, so that way everyone is seen as a leader and everyone is sought out as a leader versus me. I'm there to consult. I'm there to answer questions or to guide them in a certain direction, but I'm not the leader that's like, hey, I have that answer. You have to go through me.
Right.
Because I think that helps eliminate some of the phone calls or the conversations.
Right.
So delegating is a big key thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
And plus, I think that probably helps other people build up those traits, or,
Totally.
you know what I mean? Just to kind of help them grow and learn
And it's
things too.
the leadership muscles.
For sure.
You know.
Totally.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. I'm done. Thank you so much. That was amazing. I'm going to have Jesse jump in and.
Jesse's that question.
Yeah.
I can't hear you, Jesse. You may be muted.
And I'm not muted. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Now I can hear you.
Problems with us on the phone. No, you nailed it, because one of our readings that we just had was about creating shared knowledge within a group or a team, and by creating experts, so that way you can kind of branch off the knowledge. Not everyone has to learn everything, but one person
Right.
can hear that they can go to. So, I'm Jesse, by the way, and ask, how do you, Leah, create cohesion amongst your team?
Say that one more time. I don't know why you're lower than everybody else was.
How do you, Leah, create cohesion amongst your teams?
Having fun, I guess, is my quick answer, is having fun. I think having fun, getting to know people on a personal level, that helps create cohesiveness on a team. You've got to be able to build those relationships. People have to be able to feel like they trust the person that they work with. And I think that helps create cohesiveness on a team. But you got to have fun. You got to get the job done, but you got to have fun doing that. And that takes trust, and that takes building relationships as part of a team. And so you've got to be able to have some fun with the person, or kind of find out what they like to do.
And so once your team is cohesive, how do you believe that helps the team in a whole with their performance?
I think, what helps them, as, again, if they're struggling in a particular area, then they feel comfortable reaching out to a peer for support. If there's trust there, and they feel like, hey, we're all in the same, there's trust. I can't explain it, but there's trust there. They're more likely to reach out to a peer for support versus to just fall on their own sword and fail.
So then, do you have any advice for keeping motivation up after cohesion has kind of been met, where people could start kind of just relying on others around them because they're such a cohesive group to kind of push people forward?
I think that is all on the individual, right? So I think it's being honest and saying, hey, what are you thriving for doing? So, like, for example, I know Jesse wants to be a district manager. What are you interested in doing? How can, what are your future goals? So that way that helps support. When people know that, there's no secret. Again, it's transparency. Are you looking to continue to be a manager, or are you looking to move into a different role? It helps so people understand if this person's taking on different projects, or this person's wanting to do different things, or this person's asking these different questions. This is why. And that way that person ends up being a support. They end up being a fan, an advocate for you to be successful moving forward. And again, just keeping the motivation going, that's a lot of me. That's a lot of continue to keep a pulse on the team. How are they feeling? Do they feel successful? Do they feel supported? And again, are we having fun? Are we continue to keep that momentum alive as a team? Is there celebration? Are we celebrating everyone's wins as we win together? Yeah. Sorry, it's a long answer, but.
No, good one. So then, speaking of motivation, what's more important, motivating high performers and keeping them motivated, or motivating lower performers to bring them up to a performance level that's better?
You got to do both. You got to do both, because what happens is, if you, is what I say, take your foot off the gas, one will stop. So, for example, one of the things that happens a lot as leaders, we focus on some of our, I'll say, bottom performers, or low-hanging fruit. It's just culturally, I think in any job, in leadership, we want to go after your low-hanging fruit. But what happens is, then what I call your rock stars that deliver, they start feeling a little neglected. And then sometimes what happens is they take their foot off the gas of like, well, I'm already doing so well, there's nothing for me to really focus on. And what I've seen is them backslide. And so the biggest thing as a leader is you have to have balance. You got to know where everyone's performing. And sometimes it may rely on partnership. Like, hey, Jesse, you're doing so well in this category. Hannah's struggling in this particular area. I'm going to partner you guys up together for this common goal. Sometimes, or sometimes just as a leader, you just have to have a pulse on your team and be present for every single one of them.
You nailed it, because the second question I was going to ask was, how do you keep people motivated once they've hit that performance? But you just answered it, so good job.
Thanks.
Yay.
Talking about motivating your team.
It's so funny that Jesse's telling me I did a good job. I love it.
So we focus a lot on motivating your team, but then how do you motivate yourself? So when you're a leader, you got your team that you're keeping underneath you to kind of keep going, but obviously you start to neglect yourself and keeping your motivation forward. Where do you find the balance where you can kind of keep those both in?
Great question, Jesse. Sorry, I have to laugh. It's tough. It's really, really tough. There's days where I'm like, oh my gosh. I read a lot of books. One, I don't want to call them self-help books, but I'll just say self-help books. Brene Brown is what I've been reading a lot lately. But just kind of make sure that positive affirmations, that's a big thing for me. Positive affirmations. And then for me, it's always like, what's the goal? What are you trying to solve? What is your goal? What's your goal today? What's your goal long term? So kind of just reminding myself consistently of like, what's at the end of the yellow brick road that you're trying to achieve, Leah? And whatever you're doing today, is that going to contribute positively to that? Or is it heading to that direction? If it's not, I don't need to do that. And I think that's something that keeps me grounded. Also, my family and my dog help keeping me kind of motivated, inspired to kind of keep charging. And when I get discouraged is when I reach out to the mentors or reach out to peers and kind of, just kind of seek for that encouragement. Or, hey, am I doing this right? Sometimes maybe even reaching out to a leader to just kind of make sure that am I focused on the right stuff? And if I'm not, stop doing it. Because sometimes I think as leaders we work just to sometimes feel like we're working, but it may be the wrong stuff. Not everything, not all work equals efficiency or equals, result. So sometimes I just have to check and adjust. Am I doing that right path? Am I doing everything that's going to get me down that yellow brick road to go see the Haas? If not, I need to stop because I'm derailing somewhere and kind of just, self-reflect and just check and adjust.
Sounds good. All right. So now a trick question. If you had to make a choice between the two in one day, you only had one day to do it, are you going to focus more on your team or focus more on yourself? Like if you were
on myself.
If you had to, if someone put a gun to your head and said, hey man, this is how it's got to be for this one day, you focus more on yourself?
Absolutely. I think personal growth is huge. And I think you've got to be personally right before you can lead anybody, especially when you're in a leadership position. So I got to make sure my tank is full before I can give to others.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. There's a couple other last minute questions that these.
So we have closing questions.
Love it.
In closing, what are your plans for the future?
There's a couple different things. So I'm originally from California, which you guys don't know, by way of Atlanta, by way of Alaska, with Starbucks. And one of my reasons for coming to Washington was to be here at the Starbucks Mecca, because there's more job opportunities being closer to our headquarters. And so one of the things I want to do next would be regional director. Mm-hmm. That is definitely on my plans. But there's also a position that I've recently been spending time talking to some peers about, which is called an operations consultant manager, which is basically a specialty in a particular category at Starbucks. It's also what I call like a transitional role, something to do prior to getting back into operations as a regional director.
I see.
And then you kind of already answered this. Jesse kind of covered that, but how do you motivate yourself when we're talking about your goals, like where you personally want to be? How do you, and you've covered a little bit of it. I think what I want to know though is do you think you need to be really self-aware in order to take yourself to those places?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think whatever goal you're trying to reach, or if there's a way that I'm feeling, I've got to know that this is how I'm feeling. And there's times where I'm like, why am I in this funk? What's going on here? What's happening right now? What's causing this? And that's, again, where I have to do my own self-reflection to find out what it is to be able to move forward. Because if I'm not okay, then anything that I do, anything I put out, energy or direction to my team may be misconstrued or may be done with not the right intent. And being intentional is very important to me.
That's kind of what I was getting at. How do you judge? I'm not in the place I want to be, right? And so,
how do you prepare yourself mentally to get to that good place?
Right.
Yeah.
I think you kind of feel it. I mean, sometimes you got to be your own cheerleader. I mean, sometimes it may be just looking in the mirror like, all right, today is going to be a good day. And yeah, psych yourself up like, all right, go team, you got this, Leah. And, I don't want to say I'm corny, but I'm a post-it girl. So I put post-its around that'll have positive affirmations like, okay. And I'm like, I still believe that you choose your attitude each day. You can choose to go and be a grouch and yell at this store manager because the results aren't where they're going to be. Or you can choose to be in a positive mood and kind of just think about some solutions and help support them kind of do some problem solving of their own. And, be patient.
I love that. All right, Jesse, your turn.
You've given us all these gems so far today.
I know, it's amazing.
What is this?
You're probably going to give me a tough question at the end, I'm sure.
No. What is the single best advice you can give us fresh-faced students that are just joining the workforce before we get out there and see the real world? What's the greatest piece of advice you should give us?
Oh, it's a tough. I think that's a tough question because you're saying
Well, it could be several things.
You know,
it could be several things.
I think one of the biggest things for me, I just always say, be true to yourself. I think you have to know yourself and be true to who you are prior to working for any company, working with any organization, and just make sure that as you know yourself, are your values aligned with whatever company you're working for? I never, when I first got into the workforce, I didn't really pay too much attention to mission statements and things like that. I was just like, how much do you pay? Does this work with my schedule? Great. But as I've gotten older, I've really taken the time to kind of say, hey, what does this company stand for? Because you, Leah, working for this company, that means that this is what you stand for. And if this isn't aligned with your personal values, then I don't want to be a part of that. Because again, that's important to me. And so my biggest advice is just, again, being true to yourself, knowing who you are, and kind of whatever company or any workforce you get into, is it aligned with your own personal values? Because I think when you're thinking about, hey, this is time, when you're at work, you're away from your family and people that matter most to you. And so if I'm going to be putting in these hours for work, yes, it's for a paycheck, but also I want to make sure it's something that I enjoy doing and it aligns with my family and values.
Right.
Because if not, paychecks after a while, it kind of all runs out, at the end of the day.
Right. Well, there's got to be something feeding back into you,
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, the paychecks aren't always it. So,
yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, because internally, right, it's about keeping what's going on internally right and true to yourself. And if you're not, the rest of this doesn't work right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Jesse, you can ask the last one. This is the hard one.
No, what book are you reading right now?
Wait, say it again?
What book are you reading right now?
Oh, I'm like looking at it. Quiet Leadership.
Ooh. Who's it by?
And I can't take the author, but if you want the author, I can get up and grab the book and give it to you. But Quiet Leadership.
Awesome. So what's your favorite part in that book? Like what's your takeaway so far?
I just started the book. I literally just started the book. I can tell you
Why did you pick it up?
So I picked this one up because my mentor recommended it to me.
Nice.
Is there any books that you read that you're like fun, like you like crime novels or adventure, romance, anything like that? Do you read anything like that?
I don't, I not to say I don't. I know this sounds bad, because people are like, what do you mean you don't read? I read a lot of self-help books. A lot of it are like right now, Brene Brown, Dare to Lead. That's also a book that I'm reading as well. I read a lot of books that motivate and inspire me in the work, with work and to be a better leader. My personal time, I read magazines and I'm into social media. That's like my outlet to just not think about the world because I'm like, this isn't reality. I can go there to kind of escape, And it's interesting. Some people read books, like a lot of fiction books, drama and stuff. I watch reality TV, and that's my drama. Or my escape.
Gotcha.
Oh, awesome. Well, that concludes our interview, and it's been amazing.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for talking to us. That was great.
Absolutely. This was awesome. Thanks for extending the opportunity for me to participate. This is awesome. And it was great to make me think about some of these things on the spot. It's great questions, you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I did ask Jesse to get your address. We'd like to reach out and just send you a thank you note and do that. So if you could get him your address, that would be awesome.
Absolutely.
So we can stalk you or something. We're too far away. I'm in Arizona. Erica's in Texas. We're too far away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we actually didn't really introduce ourselves, and maybe let's follow up with that because Jesse and what kind of where he's at. But Erica, go ahead and share just a little bit about you.
I just moved from El Paso to Harker Heights, which is just outside of Austin.
Love Austin.
I know, right? Then my husband me and my husband want to retire there. So that's why we chose this. He's in the military. I have a 5-year-old and I decided, he's a boy. He's my little miracle baby. He came a lot later in life than I had expected. So kind of a nice change, but I just go to school and I take care of him, and I'm hoping to get into like government of some sort, because Austin is the capital of Texas. So I would love to work at the Capitol or work in, city, something like that. So, because I really think that government needs to change a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
We need a positive direction. So,
we could go on and on about that, Erica. Don't get me started, please.
For sure.
And you're in Texas. Love it.
Oh, that's awesome. And I'm just turned 50, and so I'm back in school.
Woo-hoo!
I know. Woo-hoo. But we're all at ASU, if you didn't know that, but I actually live here on campus that this degree is out of, which is the Polytechnic campus of ASU. It's over in Mesa. You probably don't know any of that, where those areas are, but
no. I have a friend that lives in Phoenix. Not that that's next to Mesa, but yeah, I've been in Arizona. It gets too hot for me. But go ahead.
It's warm. Yeah. So, but right now it's beautiful. This is why I know why people live here now. It's just amazing. So, but my husband and I are both back in school full time. We have 6 kids, and
that's incredible.
Yeah, and so they're all grown. Yeah, they're all grown, and the youngest is 18. So we were like, okay, it's time to move and go back to school. So my husband's going to school to be a teacher, and I'm doing the org leadership, and I just picked a master's, which I'm super excited about. And then I'm hoping to do corporate consulting. So
that is fantastic.
Yeah, so it's fun. So we kind of got, I don't know if all the groups are kind of late. We kind of got all the old people in our group. So
we had this frat boy, but he dropped out of the class.
Yeah.
Which was good for us.
I think that's incredible.
Yeah.
It's to me, it's inspiring, and I'm excited for all of you guys. This is fantastic.
Yeah, it's fun.
Really cool. And I'm glad you're doing it with your husband. I think that's kind of cool too, Jen.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's it's time. So it's awesome.
Awesome.
All right. Well,
Cool.
thank you so much. We appreciate you. And I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting and send our teacher the recording. So we appreciate you letting us do that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We really appreciate
So
it.
welcome.
It
You
was
guys are
awesome.
so welcome. Thank you. Have a great weekend, guys.
And good
Okay.
luck to you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yes,
Bye.
good luck. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.
That was awesome. She's amazing.
You're a lucky dude.
No, what's funny is the dude that I had right before, he got fired, and he was off the boss. But it was the point where like I kind of know what I was doing, so I didn't really need him. And so now that she's here, she's kind of helping me with my next development,
Yes.
that's why I asked her the trick question about would you focus on yourself before your team
Right.
later on.
Right. Gotta keep.
But you said I should focus on myself before my team.
I'm gonna focus on this, you know. But she's yelled at me before because like I'll spend time and go to other stores and help them with different things. She's like, stop, like you're extending yourself. Work on this first. And so
Right.
I know she's a proponent, and that's why I kind of asked her because I figured I know she's really big on focusing on yourself before your team. So that's why.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's why I used to score low marks when I was in like an earlier manager. We would go through these reviews once a year, and I was always scoring low on managing myself. And I was like, I can know how to manage myself. Like, no, I'm talking about you not managing your time because you're spending it on everybody else. I'm like,
Right.
and isn't that a good thing? And they're like, no. And I was like, all right.
Yeah. So
For sure.
yeah, she's amazing. It's
Lucky
really
you.
yeah, it's
nice
really
to see
fun to
somebody. Yeah.
yeah. It's
So
fun to watch somebody who's been there for so long doing things so right, you know. So a lot of times I think we run into managers where we're like, how did you get there? I mean, we've talked about this before, but you're like, oh my gosh, this is not the right job for you. So it's amazing to be working with somebody who is so good at it.
Well, that's somebody that started off as, like she said, a barista. She just went
Right.
in, just working a normal job. And
Right.
hey, do you want to do this? She said, yeah. And hey, you want to do this? She said, yeah. And then it just started from there.
Right. Yeah. So that's awesome. Okay. I think that's it. You guys good? Everybody good?
Yeah, all set.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm going for the weekend, so I'm going to do everything on Tuesday. So I'll have it all caught up for our class on Wednesday, or our talk on
Okay.
Wednesday.
Do I need to send you that interview form? Review form?
It's the
It's on
okay.
yeah, we're good.
So you have it. Okay. Just want to make sure that you've got it. And I know that Jen shared it with me, but I just wanted to make sure that I share it with you. If you didn't, I know it was a circle, but whatever, you know, sometimes I can't ever find my head if it's attached. So
All right, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much. That was really, really good.
it was really good. All right. Just get us the,
Yes, I will.
whatever. And,
Yes.
okay.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye.